Good morning, all of you. In today's session, we are going to start with CSIR NET GRF Chemical Science June 2017, Part C, Series 1. Earlier, we completed 2018 June and December question papers. Entire chemical science question papers of CSIR NET have been completed. 2019 June December question papers have been discussed in the previous session. And even 2020 question paper have been completed. 18, 19, 20 series have been completed. Now we entered into 2017 June question paper, where Part B session is already completed. So now we started with Part C. So in this series, we are going to discuss about 10 questions from Part C of CSIR NET GRF Chemical Science June 2017. So let us enter into our actual concept. So this kind of discussion of previous question papers will very much helpful for your preparation towards examination. So here examination that may be competitive exam, otherwise you may go with any entrance examination. For all these kinds, it will be very much helpful to you, right? So here question number 61 to 70 will be discussed in today's session. So first we will discuss about 61. Choose the correct statement for the magnitude of threshold energy of an endoergic nuclear reaction between stationary nucleus and a moving projectile. Okay, so whenever we are going to perform the reaction between one of the heavy nucleus and a moving projectile, when the bombardment is possible, what happens? There is a release of one kind of particle of lower mass when compared to starting one, and along with that, another byproduct will be ejected in the reaction. Okay, so according to this nuclear reaction and the magnitude of threshold energy, so this magnitude of threshold energy will be related with Q factor. So that relation we have to predict in this question. Okay, so how extent of the threshold energy magnitude will be related with this Q value. So that kind of relation to be predicted for a given nuclear reaction, right? So let us discuss about nuclear reaction. We are taking a big nucleus. So when the nuclear reactions are possible, whenever the nucleus with heavy mass and highly unstable, then there is a strong tendency to eject some kind of radioactive particles whenever it is bombarded with a small particle like neutron. Any projectile atom can be bombarded upon the surface of the nucleus of unstable, right? So then only nuclear fission or nuclear fusion reactions are possible. Especially these nuclear fission reactions are possible in the heavy nucleus, right? So lanthanide, actinide elements are mostly said to be radioactive in nature, and they are suitably participate in this nuclear fission kind of reactions. We are taking the stationary nucleus and is bombarded and is treated with this projectile moiety. This is a smaller one. Upon treating with this one, what happens? One of the smaller nuclei will be generated. Along with this, electron will be ejected in the reaction. Liberation of electron is possible. This is said to be a ejectile. Whatever we are treating is said to be projectile, and whatever coming out in the reaction is a byproduct called ejectile, right? So for this reaction, we are going to predict the interrelation between Q factor and threshold energy K, right? So K threshold energy is given as minus Q into Ma plus Ma by Ma. So this is nothing but K threshold energy is nothing but this is the parameter magnitude of threshold energy, right? So Q into Ma plus Ma. So Ma stands for molecular weight of this projectile. Small a denoted for what? Projectile moiety. And capital A denotes what? Nucleus, whatever we are taking, right? Molar mass of the stationary nucleus is taken as this capital Ma, and this is by Ma. So this is about the relation between threshold energy and this Q factor, right? So now, when we take this one, what you can say, it is the negative term is there. So it negative term, what sign is indicated for this entire equation, so that it is very clear that K threshold energy is always greater than this Q value. Based on this equation only, we can clearly predict. What's the equation? K threshold energy is equal to minus Q Ma plus Ma by Ma, right? So we are in relation. So it is obvious that here we have negative charge, here K threshold energy is there. So that this threshold energy value will be always greater than this Q value. So that is the interference we obtained from that equation. So this threshold energy is greater than Q of nuclear reaction. Okay, so for question number 61, option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 62. Identify correct statement from the following. From all 4 options given, we have to predict which options are suitable for the given conditions. Okay, so it is a kind of analytical method. Thermogravimetric analysis, differential thermal analysis, all these are the methods of analytic analysis, and where we can perform the by taking the sample and by changing the temperature conditions, we can analyze the given compound. So for that kind of reactions, what kind of statements are relevant, we have to predict. Okay. Area of differential thermal analysis. Peak is proportional to the amount of sample. Area of differential thermogravimetric analysis curve is proportional to the mass loss. Phase transition cannot be studied with the differential scanning calorimetry. Simultaneous determination of 2 metal ions is possible with thermogravimetric analysis. Okay, here different even among all which options are correct, we have to predict. Okay, so correct option will be 2. So A, B, D statements are true. A statement is nothing but area of differential thermal analysis, DTA curve, when taken, peak is proportional to the amount of sample. When we are taking this peak area denotes what? So this peak area is in 2 types. One is endo peak is obtained and exo peak is obtained in case of this differential thermal analysis. In case of this one, the peak region, whatever present in this, that will denotes what? Amount of sample, how extent of sample we are taking in the reaction. So for that case, here option A will be the right one. And area of differential thermogravimetric analysis, DTA curve, is proportional to its mass loss. So whenever area, so this area, whatever we are describing in this equation, thermogravimetric analysis method, thermal analysis in which mass of the sample measured over the time as the temperature changes. How the mass change is possible as we are changing the temperature with respect to time. That kind of correlation can be possible in thermogravimetric analysis. Okay, so this is a kind of method, differential thermogravimetric analysis proportional to mass loss. Upon treating with the temperature conditions linear with the time, what happens, how extent mass loss is possible, that can be predicted by using this kind of graphical representation. Okay, so this area, whatever area we are showing in this what graphical representation, that area mainly represents mass loss of the compound what we are taking for the analysis. Okay, and next is about simultaneous determination of 2 metal ions are possible. Okay, so it is a kind of multi-component system, not only a single compound or pure compound, but also by taking in the mixture state, it is possible to analyze the samples. Okay, so and the phase transition cannot be studied with the differential scanning calorimetry. Calorimetry stands for what? Calorimetry is nothing but by the application of light. By the application of light, we are going to analyze the concentration of this sample, that is called a calorimetry. Application of photochemical conditions will be applied here. By using this DSC curves, DSC analysis, phase transition can be studied. Phase transition is nothing but transition or changing of physical state of any substance from one condition to another. If we are taking water exists in 3 different phases like solid, liquid and gas. In the same way, that kind of phase transition kind of analysis can be carried by using differential scanning calorimetry. Okay, so cannot they mention, but it is possible to study that kind of reactions. Okay, so in according to this, area of differential thermal analysis peak proportional to amount of sample, this is the correct statement. Area of differential thermogravimetric analysis curve proportional to molar mass, this is also correct statement. Simultaneous determination of two metal ions possible with thermogravimetric analysis. This is also right statement. Okay. For question number 62, option number A, B are right statements. So A, B, D are present in option number 2. That's why question number 62, option number 2 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 63. Again, it is the part of nuclear reaction. So nuclear chemistry, where consider the following statements for the fission of uranium-235 with the thermal neutrons. Okay, again we are taking heavy nucleus of uranium-235, and upon projecting with the thermal neutrons, what kind of transition, what kind of interference you are going to observe. Those things we have to predict from the given options. Okay, whenever nuclear fission of uranium was carried, uranium was taken here, it is the heavy molecule consisting 235 molar mass, and we are projecting with the thermal neutrons. Thermal neutrons are bombarded on the surface of uranium so that it will be fragmented into two smaller particles said to be, one is barium, another is a noble gas krypton. Along with this, three neutrons will be ejected. Again, these released neutrons are utilized for the further continuation of nuclear fission. In this way, always fission reaction carried in the chain-like manner, right? It is a continuous process because each and every nuclear fission reaction is used to eject the neutrons. These neutrons are used to initiate another chain reaction of uranium fission. So in this way, it will be propagated, it will be continued, right? So during this reaction, the percentage of nuclei undergoing unsymmetrical fission is maximum. Okay, so here you can observe that unsymmetrical fission in the sense whenever uranium is fragmented into barium and krypton, this is not a symmetrical fragmentation. We are not getting exactly equal extent of particles. One is of heavier, another is of somewhat lesser molar mass containing compounds. Hence, we can say unsymmetrical fission is possible, obviously. We are not exactly cleaving the molecule into 50%, 50%. One is of somewhat larger mass, second is of somewhat lower mass will be obtained. Hence, we can say unsymmetrical fission will be possible. That is the most commonly observed one. In each fission, one thermal neutron is produced. So here we can clearly observe that how many neutrons are ejecting during the reaction? 3 neutrons are ejected. Through 3 neutrons are generated during the fission. So that this statement 2 will not be a correct one. Third is about magnitude of energy released for the fission is the order of 200 mega electronic volts, right? So in each fission, whenever uranium is bombarded with neutron, barium and krypton and neutron, along with this, energy is liberated. Here we clearly mentioned energy is also. That energy almost around 200 mega electronic volts. This is also the right statement. Okay. For this question, uranium-235 thermal neutron reaction, the fission reaction carried for this purpose, option number A and C are satisfying. So option number A and C are present in this second one. So for question number 63, option number 2 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 64. It is the system of cluster structures. In inorganic chemistry, we have to predict the cluster structure of the compound. Addition of 2 electrons to the bismuth cluster Bi5 plus 3 results in the change in the structure type from. Okay, what they are asking for? We are giving 2 electrons. By the addition of 2 electrons, what happens? Initially, bismuth is in +3 state. By the addition of 2 electrons, now it turned into bismuth +1. Reduction get carried during the reaction. And whenever bismuth +3 turned into bismuth +1, what will be the change in its cluster structure? That kind of relation we have to predict now. Okay. In order to get that, first let us see bismuth 5 plus 3. It's a cluster structure to be predicted, right? Bismuth 3 plus 3 taken 5. Okay. So it is the kind of, so where the bismuth will be there, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. It is the family of nitrogen, right? So it is the member of nitrogen family, and the valency electron count will be NS2, NP3. So that 5 valency electrons are present in this bismuth. And how many bismuth atoms are there? 5 bismuth atoms. So 5 valency electrons into 5 bismuth atoms are there. Okay. So, and here it is in +3 charge. +3 indicates what? So it is the deficiency. It is carrying the deficiency of 3 electrons. Means 3 electrons are not there. 3 electrons are deficient in this ion. That's the reason why we have to subtract 3 electrons from this system. Okay. In order to get total valency electron count, we have to get its valency electrons present. Bismuth NH2 NP 3 configuration, so that 5 valency electrons. So each bismuth carrying 5 electrons, that's why 5 into 5 it will be, right? And it is carrying tripositive charge, so that we have to subtract 3 electrons from this. 5 into 5, 25 minus 3, 22. Total valency electron count will be 22 here. Okay. Cluster structure is always given as 4n plus x is equal to total valency electrons. 4n plus x is equal to how many valency electrons we have? 22. So that 4 into n stands for what? Number of atoms present in the given cluster. How many bismuth atoms are there? 5 bismuth atoms are there. Hence, we can denote 4 into 5 plus x is equal to 22. Right. So x is equal to 22 minus 20. 22 minus 20, the difference will be 2. So let us put this in this 4n plus x formula. So it will become 4n plus 2. 4n plus 2 stands what? Clozo. 4n plus 4 is nothing but nido. 4n plus 6 is called arachno. 4n plus 8 is called hypo. So here it is 4n plus 2 system. Hence we can clearly mention bismuth 5 plus 3 is a category of closure structure. Closure cluster will be there. What we are doing? We are adding 2 more electrons to this bismuth ion now. Whenever 2 more electrons get added to this one, what happens? Bismuth plus 3 turned into bismuth plus 1. Reduction get carried here. By this, bismuth 5 plus 1 monopositive charge is originated. Now we have to predict total valency electrons present in this. Total valency electrons is equal to how many valency electrons in each bismuth? 5. And how many bismuth atoms are there? 5. So the deficiency of only 1 electron. Hence, we have to subtract only 1 electron from the system. 25 minus 1, it will be 24. Total valency electrons of bismuth 5 plus 1 will be 24. Again, we have to apply the same formula for the prediction of cluster structure. 4n plus x is equal to total valency electrons. Here total valency electrons are 24. Number of atoms of bismuth are 5. So 24 minus 20 is equal to 4. So x is equal to 4 is nothing but 4n plus 4 system it is. It is a kind of 4n plus 4 system. 4n plus 4 system is denoted as nido structure. During the addition of two electrons, clozo is transformed into nido structure. Clozo is turned into nido structure. This is the transition. So it is mentioned in option number 1. Hence, for the question number 64, option will be the right answer. Right? So this is a kind of prediction of cluster structure based on its total valency electron count. And we have to apply in the formula 4n plus x. So based on x value, it is possible to predict either clozo, nido, arachno, hypo kind of structures. Okay. So here, clozo to nido transition is possible, so that option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 65. Reaction of sodium manganese CO taken 5 with a CH2CH CH2Cl. This is called allyl chloride. Gives A along with sodium chloride byproduct. Photolysis of compound A results in compound B together with the elimination of carbonyl group. The correct structure formulation of compound A and B respectively. Okay. So what happens? To this manganese compound, to this manganese complex, we are adding allyl chloride. Upon the addition, there is a possibility of compound A. Compound A, after its formation, it's subjected to photolysis. Okay, photolysis stands for what? Cleavage of the bonds in the presence of light is called photolysis. Okay, lysis stands for breaking of bonds. Photolysis stands for in the presence of light if such a reaction carried. Now it turned into compound B, right? So during this reaction, we are cleaving bonds, right? That's the reason why carbonyl group is discarded as a byproduct. Now we have to predict what is A and what is B, right? So let us see what is the mechanism observed in this reaction. So first we are taking sodium manganese CO taken 5 compound and treated with allyl chloride, and there is a possibility of the compound like this. What is the compound generated? Here, chloro is eliminated and CH2 minus will be there. This CH2 minus directly bound to this manganese. Directly bound to this manganese. Okay, manganese CO taken 5 is there, so that there is a direct formation of bond between carbon and manganese. Hence, you can say it is a kind of organometallic compound. Organometallic compound is generated upon photolytic conditions. So this one of the carbonyl group is eliminated, so that manganese will experience electron deficiency. In order to satisfy that electron deficiency, here this carbon giving electrons because of negative charge generated due to this one, and here double bond is there. This double bonded electrons also participate in this one, so that here three-centered electron donation is possible in this manner. Manganese CO taken 4 and this kind of hybrid structure will be originated, because these two electrons sometimes exist at this position and some other time exist at this position. This is a kind of resonance hybrid. Now let us see the detailed mechanism. Initially, manganese associated with 5 carbonyl groups around that, and it is treated with allyl chloride. Upon treating, what happens? Direct linkage between manganese and carbon organometallic compound is generated. Allyl group will be added, so that around the carbon manganese coordination number will be changed from 5 to 6. Here coordination number is nothing but number of ligands present around the central metal. Here central metal is associated with 5 ligands. After the reaction with allyl chloride, here coordination number rises to 6. Right now we are treating with H nu. Photolyte is employed here, so that expansion of heptacity is possible. Initially only one carbon is in bond with a central metal. Now these electrons also participate in this, so neta 1 means 1 electron is donated here. Now we turned into neta 3, means these 2 electrons also get donated by this resonance hybrid. Neta 1 to neta 3 type of expansion is possible, and we have to discard one of the carbonyl group. Because it should be tetracarbonyl, not pentacarbonyl. So only tetracarbonyl will be there, right? So because photolysis reaction get carried, hence tetracarbonyl will be generated after the reaction. So let us see how tetracarbonyl group is generated. Right, in this way tetracarbonyl group is generated. Tetracarbonyl, because after the reaction, how many? Only 4 carbonyl groups will be there, because elimination of one of the carbonyl is possible, right? That's the reason why only 4 carbonyl groups are present around this manganese. So here final product with 4 carbonyl and one this allylic 3 carbon, which are giving 3 electrons here. Okay, so let us see compound 1 will be A. So in this we have 5 carbonyl groups, and allyl group is giving only 1 electron, so that it is neta 1 type of condition, which is provided in this option number A. And in option number B, we have 4 carbonyl and 1 allylic position, neta 3 electron donation is possible. So this is the exact, both the products are satisfying whatever question is given to us, right? So for question number 65, option number 1 will be the right answer. Okay, so we saw the detailed mechanism of the reaction where pentacarbonyl will be taken allyl chloride initially. Allyl chloride directly bonded to the manganese in this manner, and the latter, upon photochemical conditions, carbonyl group will be discarded so that heptacity can be expanded. Expansion in the heptacity is possible, and the final product is obtained in this manner. That's the reason why option number 1 will be the right answer for question number 65. Let us move on to next question 66. A copper plus 2 complex having distorted octahedral geometry shows an absorption band at 625 nanometers. Given spin orbit coupling of the complex at 625 centimeter inverse, minus 625 centimeter inverse, mu effective in Bohr magnetons. Mu effective value to be predicted. Okay, so here magnetic moment of any compound is calculated in 3 different manners. Spin only magnetic moment, second is about spin orbit magnetic moment, spin orbit coupling magnetic moment, and third is about mu effective magnetic moment. Okay, so what they are asking for this copper plus 2 complex, they are asking for its mu effective in Bohr magnetons to be predicted. For copper plus 2 complex, mu spin orbital coupling can be taken as 2 under root s into s plus 1 formula. Okay, so here mu effective can be taken as under root n into n plus 2 formula. Mu effective is taken as under root n into n plus 2 formula. So what is given? Copper plus 2 is given. Okay, so copper plus 2. So copper is in plus 2 state. Initially, copper electronic configuration will be 4s2 4d9. Upon this copper plus 2 converting into this dipositive, 2 s electrons will be lost. 2 s electrons lost, so that configuration will be 3d9, right? So 9 electrons will be present in its valency d orbital. 9 electrons are contributed in this manner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 electron present in which state? Unpaired state, so that spin is equal to half. Okay, let us apply the formula mu effective is equal to under root n into n plus 2. Okay, so n stands for number of odd electrons present in that one. So how many are there? Root 1 into 1 plus 2. So root 1 into 1 plus 2 is nothing but 1 into 3. So under root 3, what is the value? 1.73. So mu effective calculated for copper plus 2. Mu effective calculated for copper plus 2 will be 1.73. So for question number 66, option number 1 will be the right answer, right? So the formula will be under root n into n plus 2. N is how many electrons are there? Only 1 will be there. So that electron can be employed here, so that under root 3 value will be 1.73. Right? Question number 66, option number 1 will be the correct answer. Let us move on to question number 67. It is a kind of match the following, where 2 different columns are provided. We have to correlate the relevant options. So initially, strontium pentafluoride was given. Strontium pentafluoride upon treating with bromine trifluoride. So there is a possibility of BRF2. That means bromine lost its fluoride ion. Whenever loss of negatively charged species is possible, it is said to be a nucleophilic in nature. It is said to be a basic in nature, and strontium is accepting fluoride. Hence, you can say strontium is a Lewis acid. Any species with accepting electron pair is said to be a Lewis acid. Donating electron pair is said to be a Lewis base. This is in accordance with Lewis concept. So that we can clearly observe with its chemical reaction. Whenever strontium pentafluoride treating with bromine trifluoride, bromine is releasing fluoride ion, so that bromine F2 positive, because loss of fluoride will be denoted with BrF2 positive, and strontium pentafluoride by gaining F minus from this, it is converted into SbF6 minus, right? So gain of electrons are possible. Hence, we can say it is a Lewis acidic in nature, and BRF3 is a Lewis base in nature, right? So which option is given for this one? So Lewis base behavior of bromine trifluoride, exactly. So strontium pentafluoride is acidic in nature. It is accepting F minus. Bromine is giving F minus. Hence, it is a Lewis base. For this first statement, option number B will be the right answer. Next is about bromine F2 SbF6 plus AgBrF4. Okay, so it is a silver salt compound is given. So during this reaction, AgSbF6 SbF6 plus 2BrF3 is formed. So let us discuss in detail. During this reaction, what happens? In this reaction, complex 1 acts as a Lewis acid. Why it is acting like a Lewis acid? And treated with silver salt gives a salt-like compound AgSbF6. Salt-like compound is possible. So one is acid, second is base. So the salt and water type of material is formed. Acid-base reaction obviously known as neutralization type of reaction. Hence, for secondary reaction, we can apt neutralization reaction. Option 2. For option 2, right answer will be neutralization, because it is working like an acid and it is working like a base, so that neutralization reaction. And third is about potassium fluoride is treated with bromine trifluoride. There is a possibility of potassium monopositive plus bromine F4 minus. Okay. During this reaction, what happens? You can clearly observe that potassium is releasing F minus, bromine is accepting F minus here. This is reverse to the first reaction. In the first reaction, bromine itself is giving F minus because of electropositive nature. But here we have potassium, being it is the first group element, more electropositive when compared to bromine. That's the reason why it is very easily releasing F minus, so that K positive and bromine F4 minus will be generated. Okay. So in this, bromine F3 is accepting F minus, hence you can say Lewis acid nature is there. Electron pair acceptor here. For this, option number 3, A will be the right answer. And the last is about very simple 2BrF3. So when 2BrF3 molecule, bromine trifluoride molecules are given to you, one of the bromine trifluoride is releasing F minus, another bromine trifluoride is accepting F minus. In first case, what happens? Let us see here. In first case, initially bromine is in which state? Fluorine obviously -1. There is no other option for this one. But bromine is present in the form of bromine +3 oxidation state. After the reaction, it is turned into what? Here +1 oxidation state. Here it is in what state? So here +3 oxidation state. So this is the kind of self-ionization. So initially it is in neutral state. One of the compound generated will be positive, another compound generated will be negative. Means zero oxidation state turned into positive and negative complexes, so that it is denoted as self-ionization, and you can also mention this reaction as disproportionation reaction. Okay, this is also known as disproportionation. Disproportionation stands for if any compound itself it involved in spontaneous rise in the oxidation state and the lowering in the oxidation state within the single reaction is said to be disproportionation. This is a kind of self-ionization and also disproportionation, so that option number 4 can rightly mapped with this option, this C, right? So let us see. Strontium BRF3 working like a Lewis base. So 1 with B is the right one. 1 with B provided in option number 2 as well as in option number 4. So in the second reaction, salt formation is possible from acid-base reaction neutralization. 2 with D. 2 with D also mapped in 2 and 4th option. Second and 4th option may be correct. So here potassium fluoride is giving F minus and bromine is accepting, so that Lewis base nature. Third with A. Third with A is provided in only option number 4 but not option number 3. So we can clearly mention option number 4 will be the right answer. For fourth also ionization. Fourth option, option C will be the right answer. So option C will be the right answer. All are satisfied in fourth option. Hence, for question number 67, option number 4 will be the right answer. Let us move on to next question 68. Mass bar spectrum of complex iron 1,10 phenanthroline taken twice, NCS taken twice shows 2 lines at 300 Kelvin, 4 lines at 186 Kelvin, and again 2 lines at 77 Kelvin. This can, okay, so it is temperature dependent. So this is a kind of analytical method where we are depicting mass bar spectrum, and there is certain kind of transitions are possible in accordance with temperature variation. Hence, we can say it is a temperature dependent analysis. At 300 Kelvin, how many? 2 lines are possible. 186 Kelvin, 4 lines are possible. 77 Kelvin, 2 lines are possible. Based on this, what kind of interference given are correct, we have to predict. Okay, so change in the coordination mode of NCS. This is called thiocyanate ligand. Everybody knows that thiocyanate ligand is called ambidentate in nature. Ambidentate in the sense there is a possibility of this NCS can exist in NCS, means nitrogen directly linked with the central metal iron. Otherwise, there is a possibility of sulfur linkage. So both the possibilities are there. These are said to be ambidentate ligands. So there is a possibility. So this is also one of the reason. Change in the spin state of iron. This is also the change in the spin state of iron is also the correct statement. Option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us see how the change in spin state is possible. So how this change in spin state is possible? Here, you can see iron is the kind of low spin complex, and also iron is the kind of high spin complex. So same compound is given. This works like a high spin and a low spin. How it works like a high spin and low spin? Let us see. When taking NCS ligand, so in the given compound, compound, what we have? Phenanthroline is one of the ligand, and another NCS is ligand. In NCS, you can say it is the ambidentate. NCS, otherwise SCN, 2 possibilities are there. Whenever nitrogen directly linked to iron, this is regarded as a low spin complex. Nitrogen linkage is there, this is regarded as a low spin. Upon linkage of sulfur with iron, it is considered as a high spin complex. And this is working at low temperature conditions, and this is working at a high temperature conditions. Okay, so now let us see how the possibility will be. So iron is the system of iron when it exists in +2 oxidation state. So it is the system of D6. 6 electrons will be there in outermost D shell. Whenever 6 electrons are present under low spin conditions, whenever ligand is NCS, you can pair up all the electrons. All the 6 electrons will be present in T2G orbitals only. Octahedral splitting, always T2G is of lower energy, EG is of higher energy. And all 6 electrons resided in this T2G orbital, hence the configuration will be T2G6. Whenever iron high spin complex was taken, what is the condition for iron high spin? SCN type of linkage will be there. In this condition, T2G orbital 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6th electron will enter into T2G again. So in high spin complex, all the orbitals will be filled, latter pairing is possible. So that in this case, what we will do? These 6 electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6th electron will enter into T2G. So that electronic configuration will be T2G4 and EG2. Okay. So this is the main reason, because of ligand change. That ligand mode of coordination will be varied for this NCS. That is the correct statement only. And let us predict the spin of first compound. All the electrons are in the state, hence you can say spin value will be 0. and subsequent magnetic moment value also becomes a 0. Both the magnetic vectors get compensated. So one is clockwise rotation in either anti-clockwise, all are in the paired state, hence you can denote magnetic moment as 0 for this Fe plus 2O of low spin complex. Whenever it is in high spin nature, how many odd electrons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 odd electrons are there. So because of 4 odd electron, spin state will be each electron contribute plus half spin. So 4 space plus half spins are there. Total spin value will be 2, right? And 4 electrons are accompanied by 4.9 Bohr magnetons of magnetic. Okay, spin value varied, subsequent magnetic moment value is also varied. This is purely because of NCS and SCN ligand mode of attachment. So for this, option number 1 and 2 will be the right answer. So where it is mentioned in option 1, it will be mentioned. For question number 68, option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to next one. Question number 69. R3 germanium taken twice. Okay, trialkyl germanium hole taken twice on photolysis gives a radical which shows ESR spectrum. So electron spin resonance spectrum was given for this one. In this electron spin resonance spectrum, the ESR signals carrying the signature of germanium 73. I is equal to 9/2. So this angular momentum value is given as 9/2 or in terms of, okay. So if this compound was placed in the ESR spectrophotometer, how many spectral lines will be appeared? If angular momentum value will be 9/2, okay, germanium labeled angular momentum will be 9/2. Then we have to predict number of lines originated for this compound. For that purpose, we are taking this germanium compound, and here we have dimeric form. So germanium is each germanium is in accompanied by 3 alkyl groups. 3 alkyl groups are present. So if all alkyl groups are identical in nature, you can say both the germanium atoms are identical in nature. Upon thermal conditions, what we are doing, photolysis again. So thermal cleavage of bond is possible. We are going to cleave the bond under photolytic conditions so that 2 germanium free electron containing species are generated. So germanium free radicals are generated. Now we have to apply the formula 2Ni+1 in order to predict ESR spectral lines. Angular momentum value is provided within the problem. Germanium I is equal to 9/2. So N stands for what? How many atoms are there? Let us consider only one fragment. That's the reason why. How many germanium atoms are there in the fragment? Only one germanium is there. 2 into 1 it will be. I value will be 9/2, which is provided in the problem, and plus 1. 2 into 1 into 9/2. So numerator, denominator 2 get cancelled. Then 9 plus 1, total 10 signals. So if alkyl groups are exactly same, if you are taking all R is equal to CH3, all R is equal to CH3, both are said to be equivalent in nature. That's the reason why for both the germanium fragments, you can obtain 10 spectral lines. For this question number 69, option number 2 will be the right answer. 10 lines will be appeared. So correct answer will be second one. Let us move on to last question of the series. Mass fragment of iridium chloro monopositive in mass spectrometry shows the 3 mass peaks M by Z, 226, 228 and 230. Given that natural abundances of iridium 191, iridium 193, chlorine 35, chlorine 37 will be 37%, 63, 76 and 24% respectively. The intensities of the mass peaks are in the order of, okay. So here this again it is a part of mass spectroscopy. Iridium complex was given to us and M by Z values are also provided, and their natural abundances of all the isotopic forms are given. Based on this, we have to predict the relative intensity of the peaks. Relative intensity can be depicted from this data. Let us see. For this iridium chloro complex, M by Z, three values are given: 226, 228, 230. Then based on what kind of combination these values will be given, let us see. And iridium 191 natural abundance is 37, 193 is 63, chlorine 35, 76, chlorine 37, 24. These are the natural abundances. If we take the sum of 191 and 35, this will be 226. 191 abundance will be 37. It can be taken as 0.37 into 35. 35 means chlorine 35 abundance will be 76. It can be taken as 0.76. Upon multiplying, it will get 226. Only this is the possibility to get the sum value as 226. And the second possibility, in order to get this 228, so here M by Z value 228 is given. In order to predict this 228, we can bind up 191 and 37. So isotope of chlorine can be taken. So 191, 37 when taken, what happens? 228 it will be. And another possibility is also there. We can take iridium as 193 and chlorine as 35. Isotopic iridium was taken 193 and 35 was 193 and 35 was taken. Again, there is a possibility of 228. In both the manner, we will obtain 228 as a M by Z value. So here is the higher intensity. Higher intensity is given for the second one. So where the second peak higher abundance is there, that will be the right answer. In option number 1 and option number 3, we have 100% because the two possibilities we have. Okay. And the next is about another possibility. M by Z is 230. That 230 probability will be 193 and 37. 193, where is that? 193, 63%, 37, 24%, right? So this is only the possibility. So it is obvious that these isotopic element existence will be extremely less. So for this 193, its probability will be 0.63. For 37, it will be 0.24. It will become 230. So that's the reason why isotopic, when both isotopic atoms are taken, here the intensity ratio will be extremely low. So last answer will be least value, right? So 26.6, 49.5. So obviously 26.6 will be the right answer because natural abundance will be higher for natural nucleus only, but isotopic nucleus abundance will be least. So that's the reason why this value will be least. So here 49.5, 100 into 100 is to 26.6 will be the right kind of correlation for the given iridium complex. So that will be the right correlation. So this is about last one. For question number 70, option number 1 will be the right answer. 49.5 is to 100 is to 26.6. This is calculated based on their natural abundance and their M by Z values as well. So based on this, we predicted the data. So by this, we completed series 1, where all 10 questions starting from 61 to 70 have been completed. In the next series, we will continue the session. Hope it will be very much helpful. And it is collected from all the different sources of internet, Wikipedias, and also even YouTube videos, which are already done. So, and made into a, sorted into a question-wise explanation. So, and it will be very much helpful for all kind of competitive exams which are containing chemistry portion and also entrance examination. Thank you, one and all.